You are listening to the CADDle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of ZenTek Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The CADDle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the CADDle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from ZenTek Consultants. I am Jim, your disturbingly loud but fun host, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco,
who is no fun, and that's why we all must listen to the engineering joke of the week. All right, Rocco, you ready?
I'm ready.
Why are geotechnical engineers so popular?
Why?
Because they're very down-to-earth people. There you go.
God.
Well, that was a fitting joke for today. Chose that one especially for our guest today. All right, so we do have a guest, and it is a longtime friend of the podcast who is here again. Ramesh Sridharan, the Director of Reality Solutions for ABI at Autodesk, is back on the show today to talk about ReCap Pro 2027 and all the interesting ReCap features that they have available these days. So, Ramesh, my friend, thank you for taking the time to be here, sir.
Absolutely, Jim. Absolutely, Rocco. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Always fun to have you on. All right, so look, folks, Ramesh is going to kind of talk us through, all of the new stuff in 2027, but also just some general reality capture processes, that we think it's important for everybody listening to be aware of. All right, so that's what we're going to get into today. But before that, though, let's give new listeners a chance to learn a little bit about Ramesh. So, Ramesh, what should folks know about your background and what you do at Autodesk?
Absolutely. It does feel like it's been a longer gaps we had in our podcast this time since we got a chance to chat last time. Yeah, good, great to be here again. Yeah. So my background, it's funny, my background is actually in more of a geospatial, the AI and machine learning long time back. I think I said before the AI was a buzzword, we're having fun with it. So the cool part is now I kind of sit in the intersection of existing conditions and adding an intelligence layer on top of that. That's why the reality capture ended up to be a perfectly natural fit for that space. Honestly, I think I consider myself pretty lucky. I get to work on something I enjoy and something I'm genuinely curious about every day, and I get paid. So pretty good, right?
Not a bad deal.
Yeah. At Autodesk, like Jim said, I lead the reality solutions team for AEC, but reality solutions goes way beyond AEC as well. So overall Autodesk part, which basically means that my team spends a lot of time figuring out how to bring the real world laser scans, drone imagery, photos into digital workflows in a way that's actually useful. So for those listeners, my job is equal parts technology, the workflow, and occasionally convincing people that point clouds aren't as scary as they look. It takes some time.
There you go. Nice. All right, so let's get into this then. So look, here's what I'll say. When you're working so much in the civil space like I have for decades now, I tend to forget that, a lot of the terminology and tools and processes that we talk about all the time, they don't necessarily cross the language barrier into common conversation with, real people. And my wife gets mad at me all the time because I start rambling about things like, hydrology analysis and site volume calculations, and she has no idea what I'm talking about. And I think that there is actually a lot of that in regard to reality capture as well. And I think that, this is a good time to kind of get some explanation, right, about that so that we can all understand, even folks who aren't, working it day to day. So, Ramesh, for listeners who don't live with reality capture every day, what is ReCap Pro and kind of what role does it play with BIM workflows?
Sure, absolutely. You're right, Jim. The reality capture, where people haven't used it or they know about it, they didn't try it that much, or they tried long time back, have a kind of a bad taste in their mouth, and they don't want to look back again. So it's a mix of both. And of course, there are big set of users who are also using it, obviously, day in and day out. So it's a pretty good mix. And when it comes to ReCap Pro, it was funny. Last week I was talking with someone. They heard the term recap and recap pro, but they just thought it's just another word for reality capture point clouds. They didn't even realize it's a product until we're talking about it. So, yeah, there are a mix of people. So that's why I love this question. So the simplest way to think about Recap Pro, it's obviously one of the product in Autodesk. It's how do I say this? Maybe it's like a translator between a real world and your digital tools. You go out, scan something, or fly a drone, or take photos, or point clouds, sensor, whatever. You end up with a tons of raw data. It's just a bunch of points. And then you look at it and you're wondering, what's the point? That's where the recap comes into picture. The recap turns that into something usable, like a 3D models or the intelligence from the point cloud data or the reality capture that you can bring into Revit or Civil 3D or AutoCAD or Inventor or Navis, even Maya or 3D Studio Max or whatever you're working in. That's the bridge. That's the big thing from the raw data to the intelligence. That's exactly what ReCap Pro patches up that particular gap. So instead of designing based on assumptions or old drawings you're not totally sure about, now with the ReCap Pro, people can design based on the reality. And honestly, once people start working that way, it's really hard to go back because all the existing conditions are out there. You know exactly what you need to design on top of it, what needs to be changed. Visuals is much, much better. In general, the reality capture field is fantastic, and the ReCap Pro makes it much easier.
There you go. That's a good, succinct explanation. I like that. And it really is vitally important to have that, just having that digital model at your fingertips. So you don't have to go out to the site 45 times to try and figure out what you need to know.
Yep.
Always good stuff. So, all right. So look, of course, whenever we have Ramesh here, right, we always ask him to tell us about all the cool new stuff and whatever the latest release of ReCap is and about all its related tools. So I am not going to let him get away today without doing that, without talking to us about all of the cool new toys that we are going to get to play with in ReCap 2020 or ReCap Pro 2027. So Ramesh, ReCap Pro 2027, it just landed, right? So what's kind of the big picture theme of this release, and what do you think users should be the most excited about here?
Got it. Cool. Like every release, we really try to push things forward. Okay, so we always get a customer feedback on this tool is not working the way I am expecting, and this needs to enhancement. And there are some advanced users coming up with the fantastic new ways of working on. So we get all those feedback. We dilute it. We try to make the best product out there, take it to the next level. And that goes in general for Autodesk. All our teams are doing, all our PMs are doing the same thing. But especially when it comes to the reality capture, the real world gaps and where the industry is headed is important with this new AI and the point clouds became much easier to collect and the cloud-based workflows. Technology is moving significantly faster every year, actually. So recap, I'm really lucky that because we are in a unique position, the point clouds and reality data sit right at the center of the design and modeling and construction workflows. So this release, usually when I talk about this, I go with a list of features, why this is cool, why that is cool, which is there. There are a bunch of different cool features are coming in this one, but it's not just about those flashy features. It's more about how everything is working together. If I have to sum it up, it's a less friction, more connection from your reality capture information to your design and modeling. That's kind of like a emotional, the sentiment we are trying to go after, because if customers are not collecting the point cloud data just to brag about, hey, I got 1 terabyte, how much you got? That's not the point. The point is what can I get out of it to go to the design? That problem, that's what the attack is. So in this release, in a bigger picture, we are making things easier to get started to begin with, easier to collaborate, and much more connected to the broader Autodesk ecosystem, especially with the Pharma Cloud and the Revit plugins and so on. And of course, there are some AI powered in there, because in software industry nowadays, you don't get to launch software anymore these days unless you mention AI at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it's required. We had to sign an agreement that we would say it at least 5 times on today's show.
Yep. I already mentioned 2 times. I got 3 more to go.
Okay, good.
but but jokes aside, the goal is to make the reality capture feel like a natural part of your workflow. It's not a separate data set you're trying to wiggling through. It should be natural. It's not the separate complicated step you have to think twice about. That's why the latest version, but that's what we did last couple of versions too. This one really brings it to the next level in that aspect.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly what I've seen in it too. I mean, like, so as you said, right? It's been around for a long time, and this has been the goal for a decade. And I really do think that with this release, it's really hitting in the way that we always hoped that it would.
Yep.
So good stuff. So all right, so Rocco, we'll wake you up, right? And I know I ask you this question whenever Ramesh is on the show, so I'll just keep it with the theme. I'll do it again. Are we seeing a growth in interest, right, among our clients who are, looking for help and information and process aids in reality capture tools?
Not so much.
Okay.
We do a lot of work around the core Autodesk products, Revit, Civil 3D, Construction Cloud, AutoCAD, of course, but not so much around recap, and that's why we're doing this great show with Ramesh, right, to help increase awareness and to get folks using it, because most folks have it as part of their suite of tools. So get listening and get cranking, people.
There you go. There you go. And that is, it's, and I think it goes back to what Ramesh said at the beginning, right? So many people either just think it's too complex, or like I said, they tried it 10 years ago and they're like, oh, it's just too much time, too much data, too much struggle. And it has changed so dramatically. So y'all do need to get out there and really start looking at this stuff in a very active manner. It's literally going to change your life. It's incredible what what Ramesh and his team have done nowadays. So look, anytime that there's an update to any design system, I don't care which one it is, right? There's always a fear that things are going to be more complex, right? And you're going to need to learn entirely new processes. And one thing that I've learned, over the years developing tools and processes here at ZenTek, is that if you want people to use a new workflow, it has got to be easier than the old workflow. Otherwise, they're just going to ignore it. And I literally, I will give credit to Autodesk here and say that they have learned that lesson too. It might have taken them a while, but they have learned it and taken it to heart. And they've been doing a lot of work on shaving steps and simplifying things with every single update over the last few years. So, Ramesh, with that in mind, right, let's start with kind of the first thing that users see. What's new in the ReCap home experience, and how does that make getting into their projects and doing their work faster and easier?
Absolutely. It's funny, the recap homepage experience is one of the big requested item in our forums, and every time I talk to the customers, that comes up at least once or twice every discussion. Because it was funny that because that's the first thing users see, right? That's the first impression. And also when the customers are asking for it, they use in different environments, which has a different kind of a home screen and everything, and they do jump from multiple products. So making it easier is one of the main tasks. Exactly what you just mentioned. It has to be easier than the old one. So we saw that opportunity and to make that first experience in the ReCap Pro a little more intuitive. This has been a roadmap for last year, even the year before, honestly speaking, but we wanted some of the fundamental stuff like segmented mesh to be done last year. So now we got it. So we focused on simplifying the navigation and aligning it with the tools users already know. Even the homepage actually has more of the help information, the learning aspect, and you can click and it gives you those answers just in the homepage itself. Now it's cleaner, easier to navigate. Honestly, it feels a lot more familiar, especially if you're coming from the tools like AutoCAD or Civil 3D or Revit. So it's kind of like immersive workflow, makes it much easier. It sounds like a small thing when it makes a big, but it makes a big difference. It's like any other UI, UX, right? Sometimes you change a few buttons. I always hear those stories in iPhone apps and stuff. It wasn't doing that well, but we changed this UI aspect. Now everyone's easy to access and do it. Yeah, that matters a lot. And especially in this particular case, that as a user, you spend less time figuring out where things are, more time actually getting work done. And actually, based on what we are hearing from the users on our beta testing and also from the product release, it seems like that's a big win. It's a time well spent by the team.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. No matter what the tech is, the user experience and saved one step. I didn't have to click on a tab to get to the button. Now you can just click on the button. That makes all the difference in the world. It's crazy how much of an impact that can have on day-to-day operations. So, yeah, it's good stuff you guys have set up there at the beginning. All right, folks, I tell you what, let's get a quick commercial break in, and when we come back, we're going to get into some of the more advanced workflow tools, I guess we'll call them, in ReCap 2027, all right? So stick around, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the CADDle Call Podcast. Hey everybody, it's Jim and Rocco from ZenTek Consultants, and we wanted to talk to you guys today about Managed CAD Services by ZenTek Consultants. Look, every one of us out there in the design space, we're looking for that power person who can handle all of your standards and templates and file structures and answer all your CAD problems, but we run into two big issues. Number one, those folks don't come cheap. Especially when you start adding in all of the taxes, insurances, and time off and stuff you got to add in. And then you've got to find someone that you can trust. And that's where ZenTek Consultants come in, because I got to figure you guys are listening to us every week talk. You got to trust us. And we come in and handle all your CAD management needs for you with our Managed CAD Services contracts, an annual contract where we can be your CAD manager, doing all the things that you need done for an affordable rate with people whose technology acumen you know and trust. So Rocco, why don't you tell folks where they can find out more about Managed CAD Services and get the ball rolling?
Yep, you can hit up our website, zentekconsultants.net, and if you go under the services section, you'll be able to see the details. You could also give us a call, 866-824-4459, or drop us an email, sales@zentekconsultants.net.
There you go. All the CAD management help that you need but have not been able to get is available with Managed CAD Services by ZenTek Consultants. All right, everybody, welcome back to the CADDle Call Podcast. We're talking with Ramesh Sridharan of Autodesk about new tools and developments, I guess, around the Autodesk ReCap 2027 release. And in this half of the show, I want to talk about some of the new advanced features that are available with ReCap, right? And, you know, one of the things that is probably not a surprise since it's everywhere these days, and I have to get, you know, we talked about it first half, we got to get a certain number of mentions in here. It's Autodesk's AI integration focus. And looking at this release, I see that ReCap has not been idle in that space. So Ramesh, I mean, Autodesk Assistant, right? It's now inside ReCap Pro. How do you describe that in plain English, and where does it help people most day to day?
Got it. Yeah. So Autodesk Assistant, I think the audience might have seen this in Revit and Civil 3Ds already in one form or the other. It's in a very simplistic way to put it, it's like a chat GPT, but tuned for, in this particular case, ReCap related information. So it's basically having a really, this is the way I explained it. It's really patient coworker who never gets tired of your questions. Hey, everybody have one. You can ask things like in the latest version, the 2027 just got a couple of weeks back. You can ask questions like, how do I clean up this can? Why the mesh or the classification is not working, and what's the class in it? And the software will guide you right there inside the app, pulling in the help content or the workflows or suggestions. It's easy to see basically. Otherwise, you're not jumping between the tabs and going down to a YouTube rabbit hole, and you end up watching few YouTube shorts at the end, which never happens to me, by the way. But it's a fantastic one. Every time I try it, whenever I open the Revit or the Civil 3D, I try that. Now the ReCap also I try that. It helps enormously. And the way I always tell the users is, if you're a new user, you're trying to catch up on the ReCap Pro, it's a really huge confidence boost. It's not the new environment anymore. It will help you onboard. It actually accelerates the onboarding process. For the experienced users, it's more about saving time. Like, you could figure it out. You know where things are. But why not just ask, get the answer, do it, and move on instead of spending extra few clicks or something like we just talked about. So at the end of the day, if from the ReCap side, right, if our main goal in the ReCap Pro in a big picture is to make the reality capture easier to use, it makes all the sense to also make the path to get there easier as well. That's exactly what the software assistant is about. And honestly, this is just the beginning. There's the first release of Autodesk Assistant powered by AI. See, I squeezed one more in.
There you go.
Uh, it's just the first one as a beginning, and we got a lots of ideas lined up to make it take it further, more helpful for the users.
Yeah. Now the Autodesk Assistant, it's being tied into everything now, and
Yes.
it's really working out well. I've heard, everybody seems to like it, right? Even, and like I said, the biggest area that I've heard the feedback on, it's for the inexperienced users, because it's like, I think your analogy is great. It's like having a really skilled, talented, professional hovering over your shoulder to answer your questions, and they never get tired of you.
And the one who don't judge you.
There you go. All right. So another huge shift at Autodesk this year has been its move towards integrating and connecting almost all of its systems with the Forma Construction Cloud. And if you guys don't know, that was formerly the Autodesk Construction Cloud. It's now Forma, and they're trying to bring integrated design to a cloud-based centralized model. And while I think we can all agree that Autodesk needs to put a leash on their marketing department so they stop renaming things every 2 weeks, I think that the workflow concept here is a really important one. So Ramesh, I mean, cloud connected workflows are a big deal, right? What does the Forma integration enable? I mean, especially around like syncing view states and view groups, between ReCap and the cloud.
Absolutely. It's funny, we talk about how AI is a buzzword now, right? If you rewind like 2 or 3 years back or so, this cloud connection was a buzzword. Everyone in the industry talking about every software is connected to cloud one way or the other to make it easy, especially post-COVID era. Um, in this particular one, the cloud and the pharma integration, it's funny, you put it like pharma construction cloud. Like, in my mind, I was thinking like, I'm glad he didn't say FCC. Um,
That would not be good.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was from the point cloud aspect, the cloud was a phenomenal help. It looks like a simple, subtle change. I'm just putting the things in the cloud, so what big deal? But it's actually a pretty big shift. And we are seeing more and more users moving their reality capture workflows to Pharma, not just for the storage. Storage is just one piece of the puzzle, big piece, but still a one piece of the puzzle, but mainly for the collaboration, visualization, and the communication with the data makes it much, much easier. So that's what we've been doing it for the last few years, right? With Pharma, we made it possible to handle massive data sets. You call it billions of points or terabytes of data, whatever it is. Now you can actually visualize it and not only able to view, but you can share and interact with it very smoothly. And if you extract the intelligence from it or some derivatives from it, that can go into what we call as a model coordination, overlay with your design drawings or the Revit models and so on. So now reality capture data, I can use it. I can use it without waiting for copying for 2 or 3 or 4 hours and tapping my watch. Now I can actually click a button, it shows in my browser, I can do it. I don't have to hog my C drive or D drive or anything. That was phenomenal. That helps a lot for the customer. And most importantly, you don't have to copy in multiple pieces. That's totally data management thing. But with this latest updates, we are really ramping it up at one more level. Now, we call it as a view states and view groups. What it actually means is I am looking at something, some data in some view or aspect. I see there is some issue or I have some question, and I want to ask Rocco about it. So how will I communicate to him? This is exactly what I want. And of course, I can go to old school, take a screen capture and send it to him, but that's not what we want to do, right? Now you store it as a view state or something, and I can name it. I can let Rocco, hey, check this out. I'm seeing something. He can open the browser on his end, go back to the exact view state. Now he sees what I see. And he and me can have a conversation, even though he's in New Jersey, I'm all the way in Texas. That makes it much, much powerful. So the things like a view states and view groups you can create in the recap, now that can live in the cloud with this latest version, can be shared across the teams, and can make things, change those things or update those things in the cloud. That will sync back to the desktop too. So Office, field, location. We're kind of going beyond those borders. And most importantly, we're not constantly recreating views or explaining, like I said, hey, look at this angle or look at that, or everyone's looking at the same thing now, no matter where you are. That's the key aspect. Honestly, from my side, anything that cuts down on emails, like, can you resend the screenshot, is a big win. I'm pretty sure that's what Raka will say. Hey, I didn't get the screenshot, send it to me, so now I have to do it again. This will make it easier.
Yeah. And like I say, the other thing is, with a screenshot, it's static, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I look like at the moment I looked at it from the spot I looked at it on my screen versus, the states and the groups. It's dynamic. You can go in, you can look, and you can adjust it and tweak and zoom in and say what's really going on here. It's incredible.
Yeah, dynamic thing, right? So anything, you can have a constant discussion or a live discussion instead of just talking over like you said, the static one.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I love what you guys are doing there. So Rocco, how important do you and our clients, I think more importantly than you, kind of see this new cloud-based workflow as being for both, the design space and for the construction space?
Are you saying that clients are more important than me?
I'm saying that my dead dog outside is more important to you, but that would be mean, and I wouldn't say that on the air.
Wow. No, look, we all have nightmares of trying to integrate this platform with that platform, whether it be cloud or desktop. So the fact that Autodesk has this seamless integration going on now is hugely important, right? It increases people's confidence in using the tools without worrying that, okay, I'm going to spend hours on this and try to integrate with another platform and everything's going to fall apart. So it is hugely important.
Yeah, I see it as like I said, everything we're talking about here today, it's the culmination of better than a decade of effort of putting this together. This has kind of been the designer's dream, right? Instead of saying, hey, how does this connect to that? Let me go to that program. Let me go open this file. Let me go send an email about this. Everything now starts to live in that whole centralized digital space. And it's, good data that you can easily access and visually see. And this is what we've been dreaming about for decades. And it's actually finally here, which I think is just amazing. So, all right, I tell you what, folks, whenever Ramesh is here, I always ask him for kind of a, what's next kind of view of his group's development plans, right? So that everybody listening kind of has an idea of what we might see coming in future updates, right? And then that's how we knew a little bit about what's current today because of our previous discussions. But today's going to be no different. So, Ramesh, looking ahead, how do you see ReCap evolving from capturing reality to kind of producing more structured BIM-ready deliverables, and what's kind of the long-term vision that you're following with ReCap?
Absolutely. I mean, you can see that even the last year we had something called segmented mesh, kind of deriving results from the point cloud data in a format of a 3D object or aspect, so we can actually use it in a design and modeling software. Great foundation. We're building a lot on top of it. Of course, this year also, I kind of focused on a few of those kind of flashy things like Autodesk Assistant and things like that. But we added, the latest release came up with something called templates, custom templates user can set up in ReCap, similar to, you can connect it with the Revit categories that can go into Revit, export as an IFC. A lot of cool stuff are happening. But in my mind, all those things are a fantastic foundation for the next step. And next step is, you can probably see the momentum here from the ReCap Pro. We are moving pretty quickly from just capturing and sharing reality to actually understanding it towards the intelligence part of it. So today, point clouds are incredibly valuable, but they still requires interpretation, right? So that's where we've been building the foundation, the cloud connectivity, the better visualization, the Autodesk Assistant, things like segmented meshes and integration into tools like Revit. We have the Revit plugin last year. These are all the foundation building towards that reality capture intelligence aspect. So where this is going to be, you mentioned like structure. That's a fantastic word because, we are going towards more structure, more intelligent data, intelligent information, I should say maybe. The automatic classification and object recognition and outputs that are more closer to BIM workflow enabler. People always ask for, give me the BIM model, give me the 3D model. True, But what are you going to use the 3D model for? Can we give that? Can we give that result directly from reality capture? Avoid you from two extra stops, like a express train or express flight or something, go from point A to point B, the where you want to be. That makes it easier. So that intelligence is what we are looking at. So in my long-term vision is instead of customers looking at the scan, bunch of points, and trying to fit a pipe or a pillar or object, anything you want, and you click and say, hey, the software is saying it's a pipe, and yeah, I agree with it, and it tells you these are my measurements. I agree with that too. Click it, okay, save it, use it in the modeling, use it in operations, use it as a digital twins. Now reality capture, really, I honestly believe as an industry and as a product like ReCap Pro, we came a long way to make this more powerful for all the design and modeling users. I honestly think it's a lot of fun. It's just the fun is just beginning for me. I'm pretty sure it's for the fun for the users too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I said, that has been the goal. I mean, and that idea that you can go in and like I said, integrate that with AI and just say, hey, look, find everything that you think is a pipe. Run them past me one at a time. Yes, that's a pipe. Yeah, no, that's not a pipe. Yes, that's a pipe. Print them in, put them into the Revit model as actual functional pipes, right? In the designs. That's staggering, the potential of where you're going. I'm really excited by that. That's going to be so cool. Okay, folks, as always, I like to leave guests with the last word, right? So they can tell us something that I didn't think to ask about. So we're going to do that. Ramesh, you're used to this. What else should people be looking into around, the reality capture space and your tools and workflows?
Absolutely. Again, it depends on audience. So those folks who are using it heavily, push the limits for the industry, for the ReCap Pro. The things we should be doing 2 or 3 years from now, let's start talking about it. Let's make it happen sooner. Let's not wait for 3 or 4 years. No one's talking about 3 or 4 years anymore. It's all 6 months, 1 year aspect. So yeah, definitely push the limits. Reach out to us. We'll be happy to have a discussion. We're already having with many of your audiences, so we'll have more. For those users who are still thinking about reality capturing, but not just as a step in the process, they want to use it, but something is holding back. For them is, like I said, it's not just a step in the process. Reality capture is becoming a foundation for outcome-based modeling. What I mean by that is instead of starting with assumptions and working your way towards a reality, you are starting with the reality itself and building towards better outcomes, whether that's a design accuracy or the modelings or fewer surprises in the construction aspect or even a better decisions overall, or even a digital twins and operations aspect everywhere. Start with the reality, building towards a better outcomes is a philosophy. And that's what I think not only the software developers like Autodesk or others should think about it, the customers should really think about that aspect. That's what I meant as to push the environment out more than what it is. And ReCap Pro as a product has come a long way in making that possible. What used to feel as a complex or niche is now more accessible and integrated into everyday workflows. Like Rocco, and you mentioned, it's more on the cloud-based workflows helps as well. So if you haven't revisited ReCap Pro in a while, this is a great time to take another look. The tools are easier, workflows are more connected, and the value shows up a lot faster than it used to. So once you start working that way, it's hard to go back. You like what you see in ReCap Pro, and you'll know it's got you covered when it matters. So that's what probably I would say as a final thought.
It's a good final thought. I like it. All right. So with that, folks, we're going to wrap up here for today. But I do, as always, want to take a minute to just thank Ramesh one more time for being here. We know how busy you are, and we appreciate you always take time out of your busy work to talk to us, even though we're idiots. But, you still come on the show, and you're always a fun guest. So thank you, sir.
I should be thanking you guys, man. Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, folks.
Thanks
With that, we're going to get out of here, and we'll catch you next time on the CADDle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's CADDle Call was brought to you courtesy of ZenTek Consultants. That's Rocco and I. ZenTek Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. ZenTek strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to ZenTek?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentekconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentekconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.